Hi, I'm Michael Cadwell and I'm making some oars. It's gonna be awesome. Just making some traditional spoon-bladed oars. They're going to need to be 8.5 foot long to suit the dinghy that I'm building. I've got a beautiful piece of spruce that has just been delivered, Sitka Spruce, and that's going to work really, really well for these oars. So it's a little longer than I expected. I was expecting to cut it up and have to stick on the blade material either side of the loom, but in actual fact I've got the length and the width to cut them straight out, and there's not much left over. So 8.5 feet take me to that mark, and then the other 8.5 feet take me to that mark. So I've got about a ½ inch there in the middle, so not much room for error. This is just stunning. So this is really lovely straight grained, pretty much knot free Sitka spruce, and it's all quarter sawn. I've got the oar blanks thickness down to size, and they're nice and clean. Just got to mark them up, ready to cut them out, and then the shaping begins. And there's a lot of work in that. Just flattened it off with a plane, just really roughly, just so that the flatness, we don't have any lumps and bumps. So when I start to round this off, if there's any undulations, they will probably end up coming through to the final thing. So if I can just flatten it now, it gives a good starting point. Time to shape those oars up. So I need to shape that, it's called the loom, shape the loom. So the handle is obviously circular, and then it carries on circular but slightly wider, slightly thicker, and then it goes from a circular shaft to a slightly egg-shaped shaft, and then gradually gets flatter on top as it gets closer to the blade. And then the blade is a spoon blade, so it's going to be nice and curvy and, well, look a bit like a spoon. I've used the bandsaw to really roughly cut out everything. So I'm roughly in the right ballpark. But now it's time to do the final shaping. I don't have any specific oar making planes, so I do all mine with hard graft, sandpaper and standard planes where possible. So for all the circular bits, I just have to make a really simple spar gauge. Spar gauges are a really easy way for circular bits to get them into an octagon shape, because for an octagon shape they're pretty easy to make circular. And so the way that works is on a ratio of 7:10:7. I'll make it and you'll see and you'll understand. So that section there is going to be the handle. This section all needs to be perfectly circular, and then moving further down towards the blade is going to be where it begins to change shape. So I use my spar gauge to make the octagonal sections. The handle is now roughly octagonal, and it's time to make it into the round. Spoke shaving time. I flattened off the top of the blade, and it's time to turn it over and make that a spoon. Taken off the bulk of the material on the back of the blade, and normally at this point, to get the hollow into the back, you would use a plane that had the hollow profile. Seeing as I don't have one of those, I'll just use a flapper disc on a grinder and go really carefully. So that's most of the back of the blade into shape. Just sanding it and making it, sort of doing the final shaping. But there's a join in the neck between the loom and the blade, and that needs to be fed in to make it all flow from one into the other. So it's quite an important area to aesthetically to get right. So I thought it'd be nice to add in a nice little accent onto the end of the oar. I'm letting in a little bit of teak to act as a little hardwood protector on the end of the oar. So where that line is, I'm going to remove a little layer of that and pop in a couple of mil of teak. It'll look good. Having some hardwood on the end will protect the end from any damage, or at least make it a little bit harder wearing. So the piece of teak I'm going to use is from the 1913 William Fife designed gaff cutter called Morna. She's being restored over in Australia, and I had the privilege of working on her for a little while. And in doing so, as we were taking up the deck, there's a whole lot of bits of teak, very old teak that was originally laid back in 1913 by Morrison and Sinclair. When they put the deck down, it was time it come to the end of its natural life. So I've got a few pieces of it which I've machined and brought back with me from Australia, and I thought that'd be quite a nice little use to put it in the end of the oar. First coat of varnish. Let's start with a nice thin coat of varnish. Having to do a lot of other bits of work, entertain other bits of work to make sure that this project gets funded and I can see it all the way through to completion. So sometimes I have to spend certain days out working for other people, and that helps finance the workshop here and the materials. These oars that I've built will be for the boat that I'm building. They're 8.5 foot long, built out of Sitka Spruce. But it raises quite a good point that if anyone out there wants to have a set of oars made, whether they be sculling oars, whether they want flat oars or like these spoon bladed oars, whatever they want, if anyone is interested, please don't hesitate to get in touch. It'll be a pleasure to make some more. Thanks very much for watching. Tune in next week. I'll be better, I promise.